Hi, this is Chris Yamo coming to you for my first gear review on the first backpack trip that I took up to North Manitou Island, located just off the coast of Michigan, kind of around like this area over here, off a town called Leland, Michigan. So, duration of the trip was about a 2-nighter with one other person. And the reason why I'm kind of doing this video is just kind of a reminder of how I first packed for my first backpacking trip, but also as well for some other YouTubers to comment and see if there's anything else that we could have done better in terms of the gear and some of the practices that we've done. So, let's start off. First thing I'd like to point out is the bag that I first used was the Osprey Kestral 48 liter. It was pretty cool. Came with a non-removable top lid for it. Mesh compartment here. 2 compartments at the top here with 2 zippers. Side pockets, which seem to come pretty nice and handy for all the med kits and whatnot. And a sleeping bag compartment located on the bottom, also with straps to attach the sleeping bag as well. Also a few spots here for carabiner holders and these areas over here to attach, say, like a trekking pole, which I ended up using pretty nicely. Water bottle pockets on the left and right for mesh, which actually fit the Nalgene pretty nicely. And the coolest feature on here that I thoroughly liked was this and this that hung off the side to store the trekking poles as you walked, which is actually a pretty convenient feature. Overall, it was pretty good. Being at 48 liters, it packed it up pretty well with a pretty minimal amount of space left on the top, the main pocket. Looking onto sleep gear, over here I got the Ledge Featherlite 20. This is just rated down for about 20 degrees, kind of rated more for, I'd say, 40 or 50, which was the temperatures that we were sleeping in up in North Manitou Island. Seemed to do pretty well. It even has like a little pocket on the side to, put cell phones, I don't know, chewing gum or whatever the heck you want to, store in this little pocket. In terms of the sleep pad, which is right here underneath some of this stuff, this is the Thermarest Z-lite sole. It's just a foam, pretty much just a foam sleeping pad. I think it's rated to like 2.6 is the R value that they use for heating and whatnot. And it was actually a really, really good sleeping pad. We ended up doing a little bit of bushwhacking for 1.5 to 2 miles. And it really, you can see a little bit of dents and bruises on there, but it's holding up pretty well. And even felt pretty nicely just, laying on the ground with it. It's also pretty good for a seat as well. As for the pillow, that just pretty much ended up being, a pretty small red bag like this, and just filled it up with some clothes and stuck it shut, and even actually folding 2 of these pieces over as well, since I'm kind of short, helped out pretty nicely as well. Also, for the clothes that I ended up sleeping in was, for the most part, just almost the same exact stuff that I was using to trail hike. If it got dirty, I would just get stuck outside the tent. Onto water. Water is very necessary for living. So, what we had to carry water in were 2 Nalgene bottles. One which is I got from Eastern Mountain Sports, and the other cool one, which is this one right here, actually glowed in the dark. So if we kept it inside the tent, it was nice to be able to see pretty much, where my water was if I woke up and just kind of needed to drink at night. I also carried a total of 4 liters of water in my pack. 2 from the Nalgene and then 2 from the Camelbak Antidote, which was a 2-liter pack. This seemed to be very convenient as it slipped right into the pocket inside the Osprey and pretty much kept me hydrated instead of having to stop and, have these things right here just kind of slosh around and whatnot in your mouth. Also, you got to figure out how to purify water. Purifying water came from this Saywer Mini. It came with a few different things here. It came with a little plunger to clean the thing out. Came with a little container. Well, this is actually the filter itself. Apparently this thing can filter out 100,000 gallons. Probably gonna lose it beforehand. And a little bag to put water in to like squeeze it all into the containers, which made it pretty easier and a lot better than boiling stuff. Okay, so as for the food, working on the cook kit, we got the GSI Dualist. This is actually the other person that I was with. Comes with about a, I think, 1-liter pot, 2 bowls inside it, and a spork that's a little kind of hard to open in and out. Other than that, it actually seemed to be pretty good. To clean the stuff out, had some camping soap, wilderness wash, but this came from REI. This is also not mine as well. And a sponge, of course, to clean it out. Probably should have cut this in half. As for the food, we used a lot of Mountain House stuff, which was these free-dried things. Carried a few bits of ramen, some Spam, which, you know, I don't know, it's kind of hit and miss for whoever actually enjoys Spam. I do. A few bit of beef jerky, a little bit of trail mix, and fruit snacks, and yeah, just kind of fun little snack foods that can stick inside the pockets right over here. Continuing on entertainment, we got this really awesome thing called Rite in the Rain. You can pretty much dunk it in water and even right underneath water with it. Costs about 10 bucks. I would highly recommend it. A few pages and whatnot and grids. I don't know if you can even see this from it, but you got a little square grids in there. You can draw maps out and a pencil as well. Of course, a little harmonica. Thing is, I actually don't know how to play a harmonica, but I figured I'd bring it with me anyway. Gotta have fun somehow, right? Alright, as for first aid, so this was a little bit more redundant, but we ended up taking 2 first aid kits. That was pretty much a 4-person multi-day backpacking kit. This kit contained a lot of, you know, devices in terms of, like, you know, shears, tweezers, and I guess I'm not too sure there's pliers in there, and pretty much just anything you would need in general, but the cost of that was significantly high. However, I also had some other medical stuff that I brought on my own, which was technically, you know, my personal kit. Bought some waterproof tape, bought some aspirin, I don't know, in case we had like a heart attack or something like that. It's always a possibility. You know, sanitizing wipes, ace bandages as well as inside there, all inside this little thing. Additionally, there was also a green cloth that I brought along. Possibly as like a head. I've been seeing a lot of people using them as bandanas and whatnot. A piece of cloth, in case of anything. Let's see. Oh, as for insect repellent, because you never want to be eaten by mosquitoes, I bought a Coleman mosquito net for about 3 bucks. This was actually never used, so I'll have to think about bringing that again. As well as a few, let's see, off Deep Woods wipes, which we ended up just using the spray bottle that my roommate had anyway. Let's see, on to survival. I personally brought 2 Swiss Army knives. Each one, I mean, they're pretty dense, but for the most part pretty utilizable. As for this, I really only used the knife on this, and the reason why I brought the little one as well was because, yes, it does have a knife, but at the same time it also has a nail file and a pair of scissors, which I figured would be somewhat convenient at some point. Continuing on past the knives, in terms of survival, I also had a compass that I had from Boy Scouts. It has a little mirror, so I don't know if you can actually see the camera on that, and a pretty reliable compass that helped us significantly out of bushwhacking. In terms of, we didn't really know where we were for about a mile or two, and as a result of it, we were heading east, we were actually heading south, and that's always a fun thing. The compass came in it was very handy, let's just say that. Okay, as for miscellaneous stuff, which is over here, took about 50 feet of paracord. We ended up cutting it into about 4 different pieces. We also got some bags on bags on bags with some rubber band inside those bags. One thing that I took that was pretty much free were a few grocery bags, a few extra caps, but the most important thing in here were just 2 bottles of water, or like plastic bottles that contain drinking water, or had contained drinking water. Kind of just use that, you know, an additional for, you know, being able to transport water somewhere else, or, you know, something that we could get dirty and not really worry too much about. I'm saying it only cost me like, what, 10 cents for a full bottle of water. I drank it. It's now dry, now it's sitting in the bag. It's pretty cost effective for the most part. Let's see. Also up here, we had 2 light sources. We had a Energizer, I believe it's an 80 lumen or 45 lumen headlamp. A few different modes. At the red light modes, they don't lose your night vision. I also got a handheld flashlight as well, as just a secondary piece as well. I also carry a backup battery. This was to charge my cell phone in case it died and we needed to call 911. It was kind of nice to at least have the backup battery for an extra power source, especially being in the woods because you can't plug it into a tree. Fun thing that we always like to talk about is the crap shovel. This was actually pretty handy, of course, because, you know, nature calls. I ended up wrapping some toilet paper around the handle with a bag. It's kind of nice you could just, you know, stick the shovel in the ground and you'd pretty much have a roll of toilet paper right accessible as you were doing your business in the woods. Yeah. Additionally, we also had some work gloves. These were actually 2 pairs of gloves that I had from running the Tough Mudder. So I really didn't know what I wanted to use these for, but I figured in terms of weight, it was pretty negligible. And also, it has a towel, which ended up becoming a little dirty. Might take two next time. Was this thing called a Shamit? It was a Mr. Clean Shamit. Came in a pack of two. It's about this big, if that's my hand. And that cost about $5, which is pretty nice. And some hand sanitizer, and of course, since I'm a big fan of Purdue, the Boilermakers here in Indiana, I also carried this flag that was sitting behind me as well. A few things that I personally did not carry was the tent that we used, which I believe was a NOC 32 by North Face. Weighed in probably about 3 to 3.5 pounds, and was actually pretty easy to set up overall. Had a rain fly so it didn't get wet, and yeah, it was just a really, really nice tent overall, sleeping for two people. One other thing I didn't carry to keep all our food in was a bear canister weighing in around, I think, 2 pounds or so. Pretty much had a child-proof lid, which I would assume would be bear-proof, and kept the majority of our food, so whenever we needed that, that would be carried in my friend's pack as well. Also, in terms of the entertainment that I brought, I also brought two pieces of filming equipment. The one thing that I brought is actually what this is being filmed with right now, which is the Nikon D3200. Yes, I realize it's a little heavy, but I thought it was personally necessary because I just like nice photos. Second piece of filming equipment that I brought was the GoPro Hero 3, which is sitting down over here. Had this on a chest mount and carried about 4 separate batteries as well with me and a head mount. So one of the last things that I also carried on me were a pair of trekking poles. These were created by Outdoor Products, which are located down here. They fared pretty well for the most part, in my experience. They were nice to climb down, 150 feet dunes that were probably, I don't know, like a 30 or 40% grade. One thing I also did was I put some duct tape at the bottom of that just for, I don't know, in case we needed it for something. Duct tape's always handy. You know how that stuff works. Turned out pretty well. It was nice to be able to actually shoot in some high-definition footage to get a good, kind of like a roundabout of what we had for the entire vacation. So, other than that, this concludes the gear review for the first backpacking trip that I've taken with my roommate. Hopefully, from all the comments in here, I'll try to improve for next time and try to get backpacking very shortly. So, until then, I will see you in the next video.